I'm live, family. I am live. This your boy Keng el Bey, dropping that knowledge on you all day. Peace and love, family. Peace and love. Anybody who want to come in and ask any questions, anybody who want to come in and can mute and choose. Okay. So anybody who want to ask any questions tonight, get on here, ask Keng el Bey, and we're gonna talk about due process, family. We're gonna talk about traffic tickets, trust. We could whatever you want to talk about. We're gonna talk about how you going to court, what's going on under this administrative process, and we're gonna break this down. So cut that down a little more, mama. So what I'm trying to get people to understand, peace, so that you can ask me whatever you want. So I want people to hold on. Okay, I'm on a video, mom. Okay. So shoot anybody. So one of the things I want to talk about is due process. The one thing I want to talk about is due process. One thing I want to talk about due process. Hold on one second. I told you. Huh? You can watch YouTube. I know you sick. I'm sorry, family. My daughter she been under the weather, so she been sick. So what I'm trying to get people to understand is what they supposed to do when we go into these administrative courts. When they start going into these administrative courts and dealing with the courts, Islam. So let me see. I'm just send everybody. People asking me for the link, so let me send the link. Spoiled little kids. I tell you, when you got a daughter who's spoiled. So let's talk about the due process issues. We're gonna start off with the birth certificate and the issues surrounding the birth records and all of these different things, as a lot of people don't understand. So a lot of times when you go have a baby, right? A lot of y'all don't come in with your own documents, religious documents. I want you to stop now. You can breathe. I want you to stop, bro. We're going there with your mom. Riri, you know where that stuff at? She's being go in there with Riri. She's making all type of noise. She's trying to be funny. And your sister's trying to be funny. I'm on a video live. Let her go in there with you. I apologize, family. My daughter's just acting up today. But let's talk about anybody going to court. So a lot of y'all, when y'all have these birth records and you signing these birth certificates, y'all, you can put all rights reserved or whatever you want, but you can put without recourse on the birth record. You don't have to sign your name. You can put without recourse. You can attach an affidavit. You can submit an affidavit with that. You can attach that. You can have that filed onto the public record. The affidavit of live birth. You can have The parental. So let me explain to y'all when you sign these affidavits. You got to have a parental agreement. You got to have the contract, the affidavit, the both parties, right? Then you got to have what? You got to have the exhibits. So you got to have the exhibits. You got to have all the things. So get the birth record, the affidavit of live birth, right? Then you want the parental agreement, then with the exhibits. Now, if you're going to have an arbitration, right? Or let's say you want to have Islamic arbitration, all of that will be in the contract. In the affidavit, you will have the party sign the affidavit. Then you want to get it authenticated. Why do you want it to get it authenticated? So that officer, the court will know that there was a true officer that belongs to the state. Now, if you got an attorney, your attorney can do this, and you can send it to the bar. So the attorney can do it, and you can have the attorney authenticated with his license, either by the Supreme Court or the bar, showing that you can get a letter of good standing from the bar, the bar association. So a lot of you guys, when you're doing your contracts, y'all need to understand all of this. So we're gonna talk. These are due process. So these are dealing with child support. So another thing we're gonna talk about child support issues with birth records. We're gonna talk about the social security number, the EIN number, and the ITIN number. What do you want to have in the contract? So I want you to think about this, family, with the contract. Okay? I want you to think about this with your contract. Your religious institution do not get a EIN. I'm going to repeat. Do not get a 98 number, a foreign number, because it's not needed. What you need is an intermediary, an institution in between you and the public, family. Between you and the public. So I got on the live now a Keng el Bey, and I got my main man, the dynamic duo, once again, Chief Bandalay. He is the minister of vital records. And he can go into, we going to go back and forth because this is some of the stuff that he do. So you can contact him on the vital records. He can get your birth certificates. We're going to be doing all of this stuff. Your parental agreements. He can do all lot of stuff. Your marriage records. He can do all of that for you guys. So if you plan on getting married, this is the guy that you need to see. If you plan on doing prenups, prearrangement. So let's talk about all of this stuff. So reason why we talking about contracts, because a lot of guys, before you get married, after you get married, you need to have a premarital agreement. You need to have a premarital agreement. Why do you want all of these things in place? I'm a bust y'all head with a lot of this information tonight. Why do you want these things in place? Because you want these contracts. Because once you get this give the woman 6 months to look before you get married. Just like a prenup, you want to give her ample time. She needs to also sign a waiver. If she do not go get an attorney, she must sign a waiver of counsel. Family, these need to be in your packages. Chief Bandalay will be able to help you. We're going to be breaking everything down, putting everything. We're going to show you guys how to really get organized, and really, if you want to live by contract and contract only. So let's get back into the ITIN, the SSN, and the EIN. Those are known as tax identification numbers. A tax identification number. Let me see. I think people are trying to get on, right? So, what I want people to understand about your contracts, how to make your contracts enforceable, what do you need to do with your contracts, and how you need to move with your contracts and move it and see how it's going on. So, let's talk about this, right? So, how do you do not want to be a part of the Federal Reserve System? Because the United States has a some kind of private contract with the Federal Reserve System. And when you come in with the SSN, ITIN, or the EIN, that is a tax identification number. So what needs to happen under contract? Remember, contract is king. So when you get when you allow your ministry, you come under your religious entity, it can get so the church don't have one. It sets up an intermediary between the two, and it generates a 9-8 number. You would get your religious packet from your entity, and what would happen? They would generate off of the 9-8 number, they would take you to the IRS. You would go to the IRS and you would pick a church control entity. It would generate you a tax identification number, and you can generate multiple tax identification numbers off of that number. That's your tax exemption number. You can call the IRS. Once you generate it once, they're not going to let you keep doing it, and they will allow you to keep doing it over and over and over again. This is King. Yes. I'm gonna show y'all how to get remedy, because when we talk about only thing you're dealing with in the United States, right? Only thing you're dealing with the United States is what, family? What are you dealing with? You only dealing in taxes and insurance. Taxes and insurance. I want to tell you this. You're only a bond is nothing but an insurance. Tax is nothing but a lien. So you need to understand when you're talking about liens, you're talking about a tax, and you're talking because that's a fee schedule for using property, family. So what you got to understand, I'm gonna break this stuff down for y'all so y'all can understand how to get remedy. So you can rock with Keng el Bey and Chief Vanderlei. Chief, you want to add anything to this while I'm flowing, or you just gonna sit there?
Go ahead. I mean, go ahead. I was doing something real quick.
Okay. So so remember the banks are intermediaries. So we're talking about proof of claim. How do you get a proof of claim? The Internal Revenue Service is going to give you your tax identification number. That is your tax exemption number, family. When you get your tax, let me pull it up because let me pull it up and let me show you guys. We're going to go to the Internal Revenue Service and I'm going to break it down for you guys so you can read this for yourself. I'm not going to I don't want to go through everything, but I'm just going to Internal Revenue Service. I'm going to show you guys how you need to be doing your stuff as you website so you can start understanding how to move and get your tax exemptions. I can show you how to get all your tax exemptions, but you got to understand how to write these contracts. And that is the problem. You know, me and Chief, we know how to get the contracts together. So let me pull this up so you guys can see, Chief He does a lot of this. That's my right hand man. And this is what we do. So, anybody who's going through a case, so we're going to apply for an EIN number. When you go into the court, when you get this EI tax identification number, I want y'all to understand EIN attack. So let's go here. Do I need an EIN? That you can read all of this. Do I need an EIN? Start a new business, hire or will hire employees, including household employees. Open a bank account, right? Requires an EIN for banking purposes. Change the legal character or ownership of your organization. I want you to see that. Change the legal character or ownership of your organization. This is, you see what I'm going to this. So if you go to use this, you can change the ownership and the character of your legal character. What do that mean? Your legal personality. They telling you what you can do. So you need to understand this. It's good to read. Reading is fundamental, family. Let me make sure. Am I sharing this? Yes, I'm sharing this. So let me make sure everybody. So let me go. So it lets you know, right? EIN. It says incorporate a sole proprietorship or form a partnership, right? Purchase a going business, create a trust. Now, I want you to look at this word purchase because this word is used in treaties. When you purchase something, you are leasing. When you land through treaty is ceded. Is CEDED, ceded. You do not purchase land. Land is ceded to you. You have land rights through treaty. People who are leasing or colonizing land, they purchase it. They get a deed. They have a right to be there. It's a landlord tenant rights. We are the landlords. They took us out of the landlord status and put us in the tenant status. This is why we paying taxes. So I want you to understand the components of what's going on when we're dealing in treaties, because treaties is the law of the land. I want you that's very clear. I want us to understand that. So when we talk about land and tenant rights, you must deal in treaties. And then I can, if I'm a landowner, you can come and purchase the land from me, right? For 50 years. That means I'm leasing you the land. Now you have, right? You have rights according to the land. Okay, let's continue, right? It says, are a foreign person in need of EIN to comply with our IRS withholding regulations. I want y'all to understand this again. Are a foreign person in need a EIN to comply with the IRS withholding regulations? Are a a withholding agent for tax and non-wage income paid to a alien such as an individual, a corporation, or a partnership, a state or local agency or a legal government unit or agency, formed a corporation, formed a partnership, a minister of an estate formed as a result of a person's death, represents as a state that operates a business after the owner's death. So these are things you have to understand when they're talking about what's going on. So you have to look at some of these elements to determine, do you need an EIN? So you need to understand why you're getting it. A lot of y'all don't understand. So I told you when you set up the religious institution, it do not need a EIN because it's protected under treaty because you Moors need to understand that you are a Mohammedan. The First Amendment was not an accident. It was conferred and it was had to be related in to safeguard the religion of the Mohammedans and other religion due to the fact that it's treaty relations involved. So let's go on. And I get into in some more other sessions. So let me see. Did it change the screen? Okay. Let me change. I hope y'all can see this. Okay. Now it asks you what types of legal structures? So, when we're talking about a legal existence, what are they talking about to create a legal structure or a legal existence? To create a legal existence, you must have a contract. I'm going to say this once again. You must have a contract. A legal existence comes through contracting, family. Contracts creates legal existence. Let's go. Now it asks you, what types of legal structures is you applying for an EIN? Before applying for an EIN, you should already determine what types of legal structure, business, or type of organization is being established. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom. And it's going to say view additional types include tax exempt and governmental organization. If none of the above fit your establishing, there are several other choices to choose from. I'm sorry. So let's go to church. What is a church, family? Hope everybody can see this. It says the purpose. A church referred to any organization claiming to be a church or convention or association of a church. I want you to see that the word church, right? And I want you to understand the word convention or association also means church in relationship to internal revenue codes in relationship to the United States. The word church includes temples, mosques, and other houses of worship to be considered as for church for tax purposes. A group must be part of an organized religion, must have a mission statement, must be formally organized, and have a distinct legal entity. Certain characteristics are generally attributed to a church. They include a distinct legal existence and religious history, a recognized creed, form of worship, literature of its own, a defined, a definite and distinct ecclesiastical government, including code of doctrines and disciplines, an organized ordained ministry selected after completing prescribed courses of study, an established place of worship with regular congregation, regular religious service, and religious instructions for members. This is very key. So you're going to set up not an ecclesiastical. If you're Islamic, you're going to set up an Islamic form of government. They say it right here. These are not my words. Government. You need to understand what they're saying in reference. You need to. I'm not going to go over everything. The Internal Revenue got codes, and you can look up this code in accordance with what they mean by government. I'm not going because it's going to take too long. You have to look up according because guess what happens with these codes? These codes, these codes are adopted. The Internal Revenue codes. The Internal Revenue is a part of the Treasury Department. That's a part of the executive branch. These codes, the IRC, Internal Revenue codes, get adopted and converted into or merged into a USC, meaning they both now have dual jurisdiction. This is why all crimes are commercial, because the executive branch have the right at this point to enforce commercial law because they believe you are participating unless you get this tax exemption status. This is what you pay with your debt because you're not doing commercial activity. A church controlled organization is a branch of a church including a man or woman's group, a religious school, a mission society, or a youth group. You can print this off, family. This is coming straight out of of the Internal Revenue Code. So I click church control organization, then I continue, and it tell you what it is. It says a church control organization is a branch of a church, men or women's group, religious school, mission society, or youth group. A church control could be any of the following: a school below college level, affiliation with the church or operate by a religious order, a mission society sponsored by, that is the key word, a mission society sponsored by or affiliated with one or more churches or church denomination. If more than half of the society activities are conducted in or directly at a person in foreign countries. The United States is a foreign country. Do y'all understand this? A group engaged in exclusive religious activity of any religious order. What do that mean? Exclusive jurisdiction. Let me break this down. Let me stop sharing for a second. Let's get into exclusive jurisdiction because y'all need to understand what Keng el Bey is talking about, dropping this knowledge. What is exclusive jurisdiction? That means it is exclusive to what you're doing. Nobody, it's not, you excluding everybody else. Y'all need to understand this. So I can break this down, show you how the operation of law works. We're dealing in contracts. These things need to be in your contracts. We talking about the contract game. I dropped this. This is what we do. When I tell people I litigated, you cannot go into court half-ass. When you get your tax exemption paperwork, you take it into the court. You got proof of claim. They don't have jurisdiction. You walking in there talking all of this, I'm a more. No, I'm going to show you what to do. You take your paperwork, you slam it in there. That's an exhibit. You get you put your memorandum of law, which is your Islamic law, your affidavit in support of your memorandum with exhibits, which is one of the exhibits is your tax exemption number. So let's look up the word tax exemption. First, let's look up the word exclusive. Let's look up the word exclusive before we move forward. I'm dropping jewels because y'all need to understand what these words mean, right? Exclusive. We're going to talk about exclusive as it relates to the jurisdiction. Hey, please don't come in here with that. Let me pull this up. Exclusive, exclusive. I'm trying to find the word exclusive in Black's laws. Give me a second. I should have had it already, but I didn't know I was gonna go into that. So let me find HI exclusive. Okay, let's go here. Let me go back here. Let me show y'all what exclusive means in relates to when you looking at a word and you're dealing with a jurisdiction. Let me blow this up for everybody. Could y'all shut the door? Excuse me. Excuse me. Hold on 1 second, family. Exclusive. What did this say? A, appertaining to the subject alone, not including or omitting or pertaining to any other, shutting out, debarring from interference or participation, vested in one person alone, exclusive jurisdiction. So we're dealing with an exclusive jurisdiction as it relates to tax jurisdiction. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Trying to get everybody to understand. So when we dealing with exclusive, so then they got the term exclusive as used to define quantity of control of offending agencies for the rest ipsa loquatur to apply means that control must be exclusive as against all who do not have concurrent joint control. Y'all need to understand what this word is. Res ipsa. Look, I forgot what the last part, but we talking about property. Res, okay. Ipsa, ipsa. So let's go here. Let's put it here, family. And I'm a get there. Now we gonna come here. So let's stop. Now let's go back. Let me show y'all. Let's break this down. Res ipsa loquitur. In Latin for a thing speaks for itself. It's going to speak for yourself when you got the tax exemption number. So if your members are running around and y'all don't got y'all tax exemption, you already out of pocket because they're going to use the presumption of law. So when you get your tax exemption number, there's so many other things that I need to talk about, but I don't have all day. I'm already 30 minutes in. So it says in tort law, a principle allows plaintiff to meet the burden of proof with what it is in effect. Circumstantial evidence. The plaintiff can create a rebuttable presumption of negligence by the defendant by proving the harm would not ordinarily have occurred without negligence. The that the object that caused the harm was under the defendant's control and that there are no other plausible explanation. To prove repso liquid negligence, the plaintiff must prove three things. The incident was of the type that does not generally happen without negligence. It was caused by the instrumentality sole in the defendant's control. You see that? The instrumentality. What are they talking about, instrumentalities? So when you go do all of these commercial activities, your straw man, your person, the person is claiming that you're injuring them because they saying you owe a debt and you haven't paid all of these things in your credit reports. I'm not going to go over everything. It says that the plaintiff did not contribute to the cause. So if you are tax exempt, now we're gonna go into immunity. Y'all keep talking about y'all sovereign and you got immunity. We're gonna go back to the word immunity and we're gonna look right at the word and watch what it says. What the word immunity means. Let me go right here. Let's go. Let's go back into this. Immunity. First word, comma. Exemption. Exemption. So let me put that back up. Let me show y'all. Excuse me, family. I got a exemption. It's exemption. Where's your exemption at, family? Where is your exemption? Where's your status? Where's your exemption? Where is all of these things coming to, right? So we're talking about your tax exemption status. You're talking about getting these people off your debt, off of your back. You got to have your status and you got to have your exemption. You are not part and parcel to the jurisdiction. So you claiming that you are sovereign, then you must have your tax exemption and you must understand what that is. So if you're trying to get your children all together with all of this stuff, you got to understand that the Moors do not have a treaty with the who? With the Internal Revenue Service. Yes, ma'am, Miss Jones. Reading is fundamental. Okay. So I put my email address up there. I'm gonna talk to y'all about any questions before I move on. Do anybody got any questions? Do anybody want to come on and ask me anything before? And let's get this together so I can show y'all, right? So we can get this stuff together so I can show you how to move. I don't know, this is your device. So we can start getting this stuff into the game of life so we can start moving. Because we're talking about your estate. We're talking about estate planning. So y'all, you guys, and women, we need to start having. If y'all not gonna get together and get married, y'all need to have your affidavits of birth together with your contracts. It got to have the contract, and the contract got to have the attachment. It needs to say in the affidavit, attached are the following exhibits evidencing what's what. Your which identify that the parent agreement is now attached with all of that. So you don't have no winky dink parent agreement. You want to have parenting time schedule. You want to have holiday schedules. You want to have meeting place, drop off and pickup schedule. All of these contracts need to be done, and then creating your own venue. That's done through contract, through arbitration agreements in your contracts. So if you got a contract, so let's say you have a religious arbitration. Okay, we talking about the. Let's say you guys who was dealing with child support and all of this stuff. Let's say you got your affidavit of live birth on there. What the document need to is have a lot of expression in the document. It need to talk about the exhibits. It need to talk about where if there's any complaints, so within that the arbitration, the Islamic Tribunal, or like me and Chief, we have a tribunal. It will do that. This is why you pay dues. It's under contract. Why do you want us to do it? Because we are very astute at law. So you can contact me or Chief. We normally have an inbox hearing with 3 persons on there to review. We would then consult each other, go over the information, and give you a foreign judgment. The both parties agree to this under contract. We don't play no games around here. I'm very thorough and efficient when it comes down to these documents. We are very efficient. I will show you how to win cases. But we're trying to get very organized. We're not playing the games that all the other Moors are playing, this individual, all of this different stuff. We got something very, very sophisticated. We're not them other guys. You talking to guys who've been in the courtroom, who won criminal, who won civil, who won child support, who won all types of various cases, small claims. You understand? Understanding how to collaterally attack the jurisdiction. You're not dealing with no amateurs. We got over, between me and Chief has about 20 years into the movement, and he has about similar legality for his legal going into the court. You understand? We have a lot of experience. Chief, do you want to add anything about your experience and tell them what you do a little bit?
All right, all right. I mean, just to add what you're saying, we've been in the court for a long time. I have personally been in court several times as well, dealing with several different type of cases on my own, and dealing for cases with other people that have come to me. So, we understand how the court work. We understand the judges. We've been in there long enough that we don't get nervous like most people do when they go to court. They get nervous. They get intimidated. We've been in there so many times. We done seen so many different scenarios. We done been thrown out of court. We've seen a lot, over the past, with us, but about 10 years with us, about 12, 15, about 12 years between me and you together.
It's about, I don't know. Shoot,
It might be longer than that, but
it's
it's 12 plus.
about 13. It's about
Yeah,
13 years, me and you.
yeah. So,
So,
hmm
and what y'all got to understand when we setting up this tribunal, when you contact Chief and these marriages and all of this stuff, when you deposit it into the tribunal, we keep a record. We got notaries. I'm working with an attorney. I'm trying to bring James. His name will be James Whitfield. There's a lot of things that we're doing. See, a lot of y'all don't understand that you don't have to have the attorney represent you. Attorney is a notary. He's a notary. And guess what? He knows the law. This first duty is to the court. So he knows the statute. So when you get documents from the Library of Congress or from the General Assembly, he can authenticate, yeah, this is law, blah, blah, blah. He can read it. His first duty is to the court. So he would never come in and represent. He will only come in as a witness and articulate the law based upon what he's seen. We use statutes as evidence because corporations cannot speak. They only speak through statute. So what do? We get certified copies and use that as an exhibit. We is not going in pursuant to Ohio Revised Code this or this New York State Code that or in concurrence to the United States Constitution. No, we're using a certified copy of the United States Constitution as an exhibit based on the memorandum of law, the affidavit in support, right? And right, the affidavit in support showing the exhibits. This is how you guys need to understand how to present your cases. You must have the memorandum. You always must have an affidavit in support of the law with exhibits of your findings. Now you killing all presumptions and verifying the facts. Now you can lay it down heavy. You guys got to know how to litigate, man. I see too many of y'all filing like y'all file quote rentals. They're not done like that. You're using all types of other things. Y'all don't even understand the dynamics. And I'm not even going to talk about the treaty relationships dealing with the venue with the United States Supreme Court. Because a lot of y'all are in the improper venues and getting your cases kicked out. We're dealing with questions of law. So y'all need to understand what's going on. We're talking about the contract game. Contract is king. And if you're going to incorporate the UCCs, you got to understand. I can show you how to do all of that. I can show y'all a bunch of stuff. So let's get back. So a lot of you guys, when we set up the arbitration and all of that, that got to be in the contract. It just can't just say, oh, I'm going to go to arbitration. It has to be in the contract. If it's not in the contract, it don't exist. Now you got to get the other party to consent to arbitration. But if me and you agree and we designate the jurisdiction and who is going to do the arbitration, it's already written in stone. So now the arbitration, right? Let me see. I'm trying to see if I can get Chief back on. He got kicked off for some reason. Let me send him the link. I don't know why. This is why a lot of y'all don't know how to move within the jurisdiction. Oh, I see you, Chief. Why ain't... I'm trying to see why this one ain't... I'm trying to get you in there, Chief. Why it's not... I see you, but I'm trying to get to you. It won't let me hit the ad. There you go. It's like you was up under there. So when you guys start doing your contracts, you gotta have, this is why I tell people, I'm a contract specialist. This is what I do. I write contracts all day, every day. I show people how to read contracts, I know how to write contracts, and I know how to enforce contracts. So a lot of y'all do not understand that at all. I be seeing guys y'all contracts, I'd be like, what is this? So if you're gonna have arbitration clause in there, you got to have specific things. You got to have particular elements. You got to have everything in there. And then the tribunal has to be set up, has to have procedures. They have to have procedures on evidence, on when to file, how to file. You got to have instructions. All of that need to be, if especially in your affidavits of live birth, all of these things need to be in the contract. You can't force somebody to do something if it's not, they didn't agree to it and sign in the contract. All of these elements have to be in the contract from the jump. Then you got to have all the necessary components in the affidavit of birth establishing the jurisdiction. So let's say your religious rights need to be in there. It need to be preserved in the contract. For example, if you don't practice idolatry, you can't get an EIN number or whatever. Stuff got to be in the contract, family. This is what I do. And I can show you more into the language of the contracts because language is very absolute, very specific and absolute. When you're dealing in contract, you need to understand what you're identifying. So a lot of you guys don't have the things in your contracts. So you can say, now this is a breach of my contracts. My religious rights must stay intact. So in your affidavit of birth, you must have statements in there dealing with your religious rights. What are you? Who is this? The tribunal shall have jurisdiction over my affairs and my estate, in which shall be deposited, and we must follow the Islamic code according to my society and tribunal. All this stuff you got to know what you write. It got to be in the contract. So now ain't nobody guessing what's going on because anything that's vague can be disqualified. We can't have vagueness. Everybody got to know what you're saying, and it has to be a meeting of the minds. You got to have an interpretation clause. Who can interpret Who can interpret the contract? Can the tribunal, can the arbitration have the right of interpretation for enforcement? All this stuff got to be in your contracts. I can't talk about everything because I'm been on here. I wanted to cover more space, but I'm just showing you about the language in your contracts. Let me see who is somebody keep calling. So we got to really talk about the contract. So then once you got the affidavit, then what's next? Y'all sign the contract, then you got to have an affidavit. The both parties signed the affidavit in conjunction, that both parties agree, that both parties, there was a meeting of mind of the contract, and both parties acknowledge and waive any constitutional bringing anything, or you want to preserve, like say if you want to go to court based upon the arbitration agreement. Okay, Maya, I'll call her back in a minute. Okay. You get what I'm saying? So all of that'll be in the contract. So what do I mean? So you will have your religious rights, you will have your for the interpretation clauses in there. You'll have your religious clause, I'm sorry, also in there. And then you will have like once the final judgment, you will have it, all of this stuff in the contract. So now that people understand. And so you will have, if it's deciding any custody rights, child support rights, or anything that's in the contract. Now, if you want to do your sign a birth certificate, right? It's other stuff that you can have it in there too, over the rights of the estate. That the rights of this estate is given and controlled by the who? By your, if you got a trust or whatever thing is placed in trust. I can't go over every detail, but I'm just giving you some food for thought because this is what I do. You have to be very articulated in anything. I know, Levita, you wanted to add. Do you have any questions you want to ask me? I know you got in contact to me about some contracts. Anybody got some questions about contracts?
Peace, brother. Have you checked the comments? I think they were asking about creating your own venue.
Yes.
I had said something about that. I had touched on that, creating your own venue. I said that got to be in the contract that you have your own Islamic court, right, dealing with particular matters. You see what I'm saying? So for as child support, so we're talking about anything with a private estate. I want y'all to understand, if you're talking about that commercial paper, that Federal Reserve notes, you don't have no jurisdiction over that. That is not yours. And I'm gonna get into that also tonight in this show, dealing with why you a lot of us is going in on the improper side of the venue, dealing with the Federal Reserve System, dealing with that. This is why the the Social Security number, ITIN, and EIN, they are called tax identification numbers. Once you get through the Social Security Administration, they're going to then classify that, communicate that to the Social Security, to this through
With the IRS.
IRS, right? That belongs to you. They're going to communicate that. But this is how will you get in trouble with when you go to your job. What do they ask you to do? Put your give your Social Security number on that on your W-2 form. That's a no. That's a no. That's a no. This is why you got to have the tax exemption number. So when they ask you for identification number, because remember the tax identification number, the social security number can be converted into a tax identification number. Anytime you put that SSN on a tax form, is now a tax identification number. ITIN is a tax identification number. EIN is a tax identification number. What are you going to give them? Your tax exemption number. Your tax exemption number. Can taxes be paid with Federal Reserve notes and not gold? Yeah, you can pay taxes with Federal Reserve notes.
That's what most people pay them with. Is
Exactly.
yeah.
So I'm gonna show y'all something. I'm glad she brought that up, right? So let's talk about the other side of the fence because most of y'all coming in on what? The public side of the fence, dealing with the Federal Reserve, right? Because the state of New York, the state of California, the state of Ohio, those are nothing but Federal Reserve agencies under administrative law dealing with the Federal Reserve System. Who are you supposed to be dealing with? All you Moors out there. You supposed to stay with the signatory power who you was dealing with. Moors don't got treaties with the Federal Reserve System. So you don't supposed to be over there on their side. How, okay, you say, my question is how to control your image and likeness. You control it, it's called a right of publicity agreement. A right of publicity agreement. You want to control your likeness and image. That's something I could just help you do. You know, I don't got no video. I don't think there's a video. But let's go to hold on, let me show you this in Ohio Revised Code. This can be done real quick. With that, but you can control your rights, all of that. Do it's called the right of publicity. So let's go here real quick. Ohio Revised Code.
Y'all make sure y'all like the video too.
All I do is drop. Me and man, I tell y'all what. Me and Chief boy, we be dropping some jewels. Okay, let's go here. Let me show you this. And just because I'm showing you this code, don't mean you have to use this code, this language. Anything codified belong to them. So you got to understand how to make this a part of your thing in contract. Okay? I want y'all to understand that. So it says right of publicity in individual persona definition, right? Persona means an individual name, voice, signature, photograph, image, likeness, or distinct appearance if any of these aspects have commercial value. Commercial purpose means the use of or reference to an aspect of individual persona in any of the following manners: on or connected with place, product, merchandise, goods, service, or other commercial activities not expressly exempted under this chapter. For advertising, soliciting the purchase of products, merchandise, goods, service, other commercial activity not expressly exempt under this chapter, for the purpose of promoting travel to a place, for the purpose of fundraising. Names mean the actual assumed or clearly identified name of reference to a living or deceased individual. Identities identifies the individual. I want to go over this. It says the name means the actual assumed. So they're assuming that you got control over their all caps name. See, y'all ain't got your contracts in place. See, what y'all don't understand that you do not have to file a UCC. You can file a non-UCC along with your affidavit in your exhibit. What is your exhibit? It can be your contract, your images, and all of the other things filed with the non-UCC. If you're going to use it for commercial purposes, then you can do it for that point. But that's evidence that you're doing commerce within the jurisdiction. Now, how do you go about everything? I don't know. So so this is what you see this. It says trier of fact means the jury, or in a non-jury action, the court. Right of publicity means the property rights in the individual's persona to use the individual persona for commercial purposes. It says written consent include written, electronic, digital, or other verifiable means of authorization. Institution of higher education means a state institution of higher education under this, but that's not. But I just wanted to show y'all some things when we're dealing with rights of your publicity and control. So, in Ohio, right? Guess what? You can have a right of publicity contract, or you can have a contract blocking you to be use your image and likeness of any kind under a religious contract. There's so many things I can't go over everything, but Ohio is one of the few states that you do not have to put your picture on. So a lot of you guys with these driver's license in the state of Ohio, look up your state. Some states have it where you do not have to put your facial recognition on that. No photograph. And if you really want to get down to it about want to get your identification, you can do an affidavit of identity expressing getting it authenticated on the state and federal level with your fingerprint, which is a unique marking. Nobody has your exact fingerprint. That will work as an ID too. Nobody can take that from you, especially if you get it authenticated on the state and federal level, showing that that notary was had the right to office at the time that that notary perform such action with the state and federal seal. They will align it up, showing that it's a true notary and an officer of the state. This is the purpose of authenticating your documents so they'll be recognized in the court, in federal and state court. This is why you need to understand. When you understand how to litigate, your game change for you. I can break this stuff down. I'm heavy into contracts and litigation. So let's get back on to why you coming in wrong on the public side of the fence. It depends on what state. Every state don't honor that. When we talk about your image, no pictures required, Ohio is one of them. You got to look up the states that allow that. So let's continue. Let's continue. Why you coming in on the public side dealing with the Federal Reserve under the Internal Revenue Service? You got to understand, why is they called the Internal Revenue Service? They say internal. Revenue. They put you in the revenue service. So it's an internal. So let's look up the word internal. As I break this down for y'all. Y'all need to understand when they tell you they putting you in the revenue, they're taking you from one venue into another venue. Y'all talking about is revenue. No, it's a different venue. So let's look at internal. Why y'all want to know internal? Y'all need to understand what these words is. It's very crucial to your development and understanding where your remedy lies. They're putting you in a different venue. So a lot of you guys, when they tell you, yeah, I got this internal revenue. Let me get this. Let's go internal. Internal.
Yeah. Just to add something with that too, because the IRS and tax identification numbers determine jurisdiction. So they determine what venue that you in based on your EIN. I mean your tax identification number.
Exactly. Y'all see this? Internal. I want to make this big. Internal, relating to the interior, comprised within the boundary lines of the interior concern or interest, domestic as opposed to foreign. I need you to understand this. So you're in a domestic, you put yourself in a venue, an internal venue. So guess what happened? You gave them jurisdiction because you voluntarily did this. This is a voluntary act. So it's the internal, which the executive branch have jurisdiction over the Treasury and the IRS. And then the RIC's internal revenue codes been adopted by the Congress, making it into legislative law. Now you got dual jurisdiction. You got the executive branch and the legislative branch you're dealing with simultaneously. That's why all crimes are commercial under 27 CFR 7211. I'm doing it. I know. What? Internal commerce. It says see commerce. So let's go to internal commerce. Let's go to commerce. It says internal commerce. I want you guys to see this. I want you guys to see this internal commerce. I need y'all guys to understand this information, right? Let's break this down. We're dealing in contract law, right? Internal commerce. So a lot of Moors, they go to court, they be like, man, I'm a Moor. And you get trapped up in this thing. You got all of these social security. You're doing these things within the jurisdiction. And then you get mad because you are in their jurisdiction, within their jurisdiction. So let's look at commerce and what it says about commerce, internal commerce. Here we go. I want y'all to see this internal commerce, international commerce. I want y'all to see this now so you will understand what you're doing when you're dealing with commerce. Internal commerce, such as carried on between individuals within the same state or between different parts of the same state. Now more commonly called intrastate commerce. Internal commerce, once again, such as carried on between individuals within the same state. So, what is the state they're talking about? The District of Columbia. I want to say this to you again. The District of you are in the District of Columbia as a Federal Reserve agent. You're in the federal jurisdiction dealing with Federal Reserve notes in the District of Columbia. That's called long arm extraterritorial jurisdiction. Because they have limited jurisdiction. What is the limitations? To the Federal Reserve notes. International commerce, family, commerce between states or nations entirely foreign to each other. Let me read this to you again. International commerce, commerce between states or nations entirely foreign to each other. So, let me give you an example. The state of Indiana is foreign to the state of Ohio. That's international commerce. But your Islamic religion government is also foreign to the jurisdiction if you understand what you're doing. But you got to set it up properly. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have a hard time. And this is why I'm showing you guys this stuff in this training, giving you some ideas. So, like when I drop master classes, you guys can get it. Me and Chief going to open up a school. We're going to show you how to litigate. When you get in the court, I'm going to show you what to do. The first thing you must do when you go in that courtroom is object. Let's get into administrative law real quick. Let me show y'all something. And I'm going to let Chief say some things. Because, that's my partner. That's my guy. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been rocking. We bounce this stuff off of each other. Let's go into administrative law so you guys can understand they are administrating your estate by your consent.
So before you get in that, there's a question. Venus, the genius, is saying, she asks, does that make persons aliens?
It
says, does that make persons aliens?
So I want you to look at the word Venus, the genius. It says a lien. The IRS put a lien on your estate. Persons are aliens to the revenue of the Internal Revenue Service because they put a lien on your estate based upon what? Either the social, the EIN number, or the ITIN number, meaning that they have a lien on your property. It's automatically generated through that if you don't have your tax exemption status. Do that make sense? So they use the word alien like, oh, you from outer space. No, the word mean a lien. They put a lien on your property. So you get it? They put a lien on your property. This is why you are in the Internal Revenue Service. They say you within the District of Columbia based on dealing with the Federal Reserve System, dealing with Federal Reserve notes, acting as a Federal Reserve agent. So you got to pay taxes and it's automatically a lien on your estate. So you are a foreign alien, a foreign person with a lien on his property.
Check.
Do that make sense?
I just want to say hit that like button. That was knowledge right there.
So you got to understand what these words mean when we're dealing with the administration of your estate. You are volunteering for this because of your ignorance. Just because you don't know what's going on, guess that's what they're doing. They're stealing your estate by your own consent. So the only time the court can bring you into the court if they can identify with an debt. Do you know debt and claim is synonymous? They cannot bring you in the courtroom unless there's proof of a debt. That's why everybody wants your social. That's why they be like, well, we ain't dealing with you if you ain't got your social. Why? They want to be able to identify you and drag you into the courtroom. I'm just trying to teach everybody, this is what I do. I'm a litigator. When you talk about somebody who I've got over 13 years of a litigation. I done won more cases than I lost. I done been in the court a lot of years, a lot of experience. I can start, I'm going to probably do another show on the procedures from federal to, I'll probably start on the federal side, breaking this stuff down so you guys can know what you're doing when you get in the courtroom. So let's get into the administrative part and let me show you something because this ain't nothing that Keng el Bey is saying. But hold on, before I get into the administrative part, I want to go back over that revenue, jumping into the public side, dealing with the District of Columbia, dealing with internal law, commercial law, because you're dealing with a private jurisdiction, dealing with the Federal Reserve System. So let's break this down. Who you supposed to be dealing with, Morris? You're supposed to be dealing with the United States of America. Who is a part? There's only three branches. That's the executive branch. There's the legislative branch, and then the judicial. So the biggest section of the government is the executive branch. And if you're going to be dealing United States, you're supposed to be dealing with who? A Treasury Department. The Treasury Department. United States don't have that bank. They have a treasury. Go through and look up the Department of Treasury. Then you will start looking at who else. You will start noticing that who can make coins for them because the only United States only produce coins. Then guess who can produce the coins? Guess who produce all coins? The U.S. Mint. They the only person that can produce coin. They can only produce constitutional money. The U.S. Mint. The Federal Reserve print the paper, but the U.S. Mint has exclusive jurisdiction only to print coins, and nobody else print coins but the U.S. Mint. They print all the coins, gold, silver, and any other coin for any other party. So they make the coins quarters, dimes, pennies, nickels for the Federal Reserve.
I will mention though that none of those coins that they make in general circulation, none of them have any gold or silver in them anymore. In general circulation.
In general circulation, right? They found a way to stop doing that, right? So the U.S. Mint, but they do make gold and silver coins. But you got to buy that through the U.S. Mint and through the Treasury. So what are you supposed to be doing, family? If gold and silver is the only way that you can discharge debt, who are you supposed to be dealing with? The U.S. Treasury. You go to them, you get the gold and silver, evidencing, and I can show you it's a particular way you have to do everything. You deal with that first. You're supposed to be doing that. In this show, I'm breaking some stuff down for y'all tonight. This show is heavy. So the U.S. Treasury, when you deal with the U.S. Treasury, why? Because they're the constant. That's who the Moors got a contract with, not the Federal Reserve. They don't have no contract with the Federal Reserve whatsoever. United States do. They're managing that. So you a third party interloper. Why are you getting involved in that? Why you getting involved in that space? Why are you allowing them to make a claim on you through Federal Reserve notes? So you come on the Treasury side, and then you got to deal with the U.S. Treasury. And they tell you how to go about doing it. Yes, postal stamps and postal money orders. But you got to understand something too. Let's go here. Hold on. Let me say this before. Let me go to administrative law. And I'm gonna go back and show you that the hold on, let me see if I can pull this up real quick without leaving that. I'm gonna show you that the Postmaster General operates for the Federal Reserve. I'm trying to find it under that code. I'm trying to find it. Might have to come back to that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think I might have found it. I'm trying to find that code. Uh, Okay, here we go. So let me share the screen. Let me show you this. Let me see. Let me go here. It says 39 CFR 2221, authority of the Minister of Postal Affairs. The Postmaster General is empowered to authorize any employee or agent of the United States. Hold on. That's not it. I'm trying to see. Where is that? Federal Reserve. I gotta find it. It's a code I have to find. The Postmaster General is a Federal Reserve agent. I don't know if this is it. But I know the post. It said the Federal Reserve Bank as depository and fiscal agent of the United States. The money held in the general fund of the Treasury, except in the 5% fund and redemption of outstanding national bank notes, may, upon the direction of the Secretary of Treasury deposition in Federal Reserve banks, which banks, when required by the Secretary of Treasury, shall act. Hey! As a fiscal agent of the United States and the revenue of the government or any part thereof deposited in the bank. I'm gonna have to find that, but I thought I could just pop it in. I might have to find the code, so I might have to come back to it. I do a video on that because I can find it. I we already a minute, hour and a half. I'm about to get off of here. I don't want to be on here too. So let's get to administrative law real quick before we get up out of here, right? Let's get to administrative law. And I want you to look at this certain sections of administrative law because I got to come back to that. Administrative law, right, refers to the branch of law governing the creation and operation of administrative agencies. So you guys are an administrative agent. I want y'all to understand. It says the governing, this is why you are part of the Internal Revenue Service. Say this once again. Internal Revenue Service. You are a foreign alien with a lien on your property or your estate, unless you have a tax exemption. The power granted to the administrative agencies are particularly important, along with the substantive rules that such agencies make in the legal relationship. I told y'all everything is about a relationship between agencies, other government bodies, and the public at large. You hear that again? Between agencies, other government bodies, and the public at large. Who is your other government bodies? Ecclesiastical Islamic bodies. Administrative law encompasses law and legal principles governing the administration and regulation of agencies, both federal and state, both federal and state. Agencies are delegated powers by Congress, or in the case, hold on, let's go back, hold on, let's see this again. Because a lot of y'all keep talking about these states and all of this stuff. Because I keep trying to tell you the state of is a part of the franchise. It's not, they shut down the United States of America and they're operating through this apparatus called the United States. Agencies are delegated powers by Congress, or in the case of state agencies, the state legislature. I want y'all to see this again. Administrative law encompasses the laws and legal principles governing the administration and the regulation of government agencies, both federal and state.
So we're talking about legislative, basically, right?
Right. Agencies are delegated powers by Congress. Let me read that to you again. Agencies are delegated powers by Congress. So when you're dealing with administrative law, you're dealing with an Article 1 court dealing with your administrative powers because you are under a congressional order dealing with the Internal Revenue Service. Or in the case of a state agency, the state legislator, to act as agency responsibility. I'm sorry, to act as agency responsible for carrying out certain prerogatives for Congress. Agencies are created through their own organic statute. Want to tell you this. Each agency has its own what? Administrative codes. They decide how they want to function and their personality in which they function for. So every agency, every alphabet board, child support, all of them have administrative rules, and that's their own bylaws. And then you are acting under those powers, and Congress, you are in an Article 1 court dealing with the subject matter. This is why you got to understand when I first showed you about the IRS dealing with exclusive jurisdiction relating to religious matters. They don't have no jurisdiction over religious subjects at all. They can't interfere with religious rights. Per First Amendment, meaning it was a bill of rights put on them, meaning that they cannot interfere. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, is a Bill of Rights, meaning that the government cannot override such jurisdiction at this time. It had to go through a whole new legislative process and be vetoed out. It says to act as agencies responsible for carrying out certain prerogatives from Congress. It says prerogatives from Congress. Agencies are created through their own organic statutes, which establish new laws, and in doing so, create the respective agency to interpret, administer, and enforce those new laws. Generally, administrative agencies are created to protect a public interest rather than to vindicate private rights. Let me read this. This is very important. Generally, administrative agencies are created to protect a public interest rather than to vindicate private rights. So when you talk about your rights, they're not here to vindicate your rights. They don't give a damn about your rights. They're here to protect the public property and their interest in whatever property that they got. I want you to see this. I did not. This is when you go into court, you're dealing with administrative law. This is why when you go to court, you must ask them the nature and the cause of action because they're operating off of presumption. So let's go. I want to show you about what they tell you must do when you must object. Textual argument. It says some textualist scholars argue that administrative agencies are unconstitutional, particularly because of the arguably unconstitutional delegation of lawmaking powers. Constitution never gave them that. Nonetheless, the current jurisdiction in administrative law deems agency constitution and necessary in the current society in a functional and pragmatic sense. Indeed, because Congress cannot enforce and administer every law it enacts. It must, I want you to say this, because Congress cannot enforce and administer every law that it enacts. It must rely on agencies to administer, interpret, and enforce, otherwise regulate various federal laws that Congress have enacted. Some of the notable agencies are the executive agencies such as the Department of Justice, Department of Defense. Others Other examples include some independent agencies such as the Federal Trade Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, the Environmental Protection Agencies, all are which independent from the direct control of the president. They said independent from the direct control of the president. These agencies have enormous power to interpret the broad congressional laws and enact various rules defining and interpreting relevant statutes, enforcing those rules, and adjudicating matters according to those regulations. Let me see where to tell you. I want to show you. I want to show you where it talk about objection. Okay, however, despite the agency's enormous power, the government agencies must still act within the Constitution, the constitutional and statutory parameters. These and other limits have been codified for the most part into a statute known as the Administrative Procedure Act. And analog would provide for the role of powers of all agencies and the procedures by which they must abide by in all their functions. Most of y'all don't understand. Y'all ain't read none of these acts because a lot of these administrative agencies are bringing you in court and you're not even looking at the administrative rules, especially dealing with child support and any other enforcement agency, any other alphabet board. APA categorized administrative functions into formal and informal rulemaking adjudication, which have binding effects, as well as guidance, which has no binding effect. The APA further prescribes certain procedural rules by the agencies needed to follow before acting in one of the functions listed. It says the APA is a remedial statute designed. What did they say? Remedial statute? That means they're there to get remedy. That means they have remedy statutes designed to ensure uniformity and openness in the procedures used by federal agents. The act is comprised of comprehensive regulatory schemes governing regulations, adjudicating, and rulemaking. In general terms, the APA is the major source of federal administrative agency law, while state agencies, administration, and other regulations are governed by comparable state acts. For example, under the federal APA, a judicial interpretation of the APA agency purporting to engage in rulemaking function must give notice of the proposed rulemaking before adopting the final rule. They do everything through adoption. This is how the Internal Revenue Codes are adopted into Congress. They adopt all of these different rules from each other. The final rule must follow logical outgrowth of the purpose, rules, and must display the agency's consideration of all comments received and reviewed. So When you go down to the child support agency and all of these, they ask you for your social. You give it to them, bang, it becomes a tax identification number. They can ensure that you owe a debt, and this is how they can bring you into court. And its a adjudicatory function, the agencies often have their own judicial body known as the administrative law judge, who are part of their respective agencies, must be independent from the agency's officials involved in certain actions. So let me explain to you this like this. When you go to child support, and even when you go to some of these other agencies, they put in affidavits finding you already guilty. The, it's almost like a foreign judgment. They have already found you guilty. They use these affidavits and then they bring you. You don't even see most of these things in court. Just like in child support. You never seen that the child support administrative hearing officer put in an affidavit saying that you signed the birth certificate and you ain't never challenged it. You ain't never seen it. That is a due process violation because they did it to me. The administrative law judge are two adjudicated claims disputes involving the agency as impartial trials of fact and law and are prohibited by the APA from engaging in ex parte contact. What does ex parte mean? They cannot do from one side and one party, but they do this all the time, which is a violation. So they violate any of this ex parte communication. That's a violation of your due process rights. And guess what happens? You can dismiss the case. They can't break the law to enforce it. Unless upon notice and opportunity to all parties involved in the proceeding. Finally, the agencies must have fewer procedural limitations in its guidance actions where the agencies can issue interpretive rules or guidance letters explaining its stance on certain rules, but without the force of law. So I want you to understand when you go in front of these courts under these administrative law, the first thing you must do is object. You must object to its findings. You must object. Failure to object to the court jurisdiction and failure to give notice of special appearance, they will automatically assume, right, that you are in the jurisdiction. So you must object. So I need y'all to understand this. Object, object, object. They pull you in the court, object, objection. Put in a notice of objection. Why? So you can have a record for appeal for preserving your rights under what they call plain error. So I'm gonna end it at this time. I'm dropping I'm dropping some jewels, but I need to show y'all how to litigate and do all of this. I want y'all to know if you're looking for legal advice, I got to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not an attorney. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So anybody, but I can give you my insight on how I was doing with these cases and breaking this stuff down, showing you how to move. I could talk from arbitration. I can show you how to win cases. All I do is win, 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 win. And you must understand what to do prior to court because they'll get you in the courtroom. And so this is one of the tricks I do. Once I get them on due process issues, Brady discovery violations, when they violate the Sixth Amendment under nature and cause, or any other abuse of discretion, or abuse of power, or abuse of process, or abuse of subpoena powers, or any form of abuse. Look up all the different forms of abuses, okay? I ask for a stay of trial. Move to the appealing court to do what? File an injunction for what? equitable relief for due process violations. Drop that. I dropped it. That's how I'm. This is what I do. So, just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Please share this video. All I do is drop hard science on y'all, man. I'm telling you, when I tell you I've litigated, I did it a lot. And I won a lot. I did a lot of stuff in there. So I'm just letting y'all know, when I put this stuff together, I don't put this stuff together cheap. Let you know when you file your motions, every motion has to have a line. You got to, every line in your motion affidavit got to be labeled. It must be lined up. So if you do a memorandum of law, if you file a motion, it must have the heading correct, and it must have every line on there numbered. This is how the judge is going to follow. Because you want to show him, in accordance to this, right? See, right? Accordance to the memorandum of law, right? Go to, you're going to reference the case or the law according to whatever. State the law. I didn't put my email. I'm gonna put my phone number up. Show y'all how to drop this stuff in. We're gonna get into foreclosures. I'm gonna talk about a lot of stuff. I'm gonna drop some stuff in that. Start showing y'all how to win your cases. Start showing you how to move. Showing you what I do. But we getting ready to set up some stuff. We got some, man. I'm dropping some heavy stuff because I'm very thorough at what I do. Right. So this is that's my email address, Keng el Bey at Gmail, right? And we gonna get into this, family. And this is my direct contact. I used to do this because people used to call me all night and day. But we trying to get this stuff. I'm trying to get bodies. We're trying to build these institutions, and you got to get organized. And I can show you how to win. So you got to understand these components. So when you put everything in the court, another thing, y'all got to read the local rules of the court. You need to know every court has their own local rules. You can't just read the rules of evidence, the rules of criminal procedure, civil procedure, rules of superintendent, and all these of them other rules. You must also read the local rules of the court, because they would disqualify your claim if you don't follow the local rules either. Every municipal court or every court has you can you can call me. I'm a morning person, so you can call me, right? So just breaking this down, peace to my brother why you say Akanu. Thank you for
Yeah, it's the kind of. But I
Akanu.
appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I thank you, brother, for sharing me, putting me on your platforms and sharing the information, man. I'm just giving people the jewels that they need, because there's a lot of people not really understanding. And when you don't have that experience, you don't know what to look for and what to identify with. So I'm just giving y'all, I'm going to start dropping numbers, some heavy information that you're not going to hear from a lot of people, because a lot of people just don't have this experience. I made sure I took time to get the experience so I can bring it back to the community and share my wisdom. So a lot of you guys, when you file out your motions, everything has to be numbered, every line. When you do your affidavits, got to be the same way so the judge can follow. Because when you tell them something, like in my memorandum, I might say, in accordance to this, see affidavit in support, line 7 with Exhibit A, so they know exactly what I'm referencing in the memorandum, then they could go to that line within the affidavit and look at the exact statement in the affidavit and the corresponding exhibit that go along with that proof. You must do it like that. If you're not doing it like that, if you just filing a motion in the court, not so. Let's say I might have a motion for I might show a motion for a Brady discovery. Then I'm gonna have an affidavit in support of motion for Brady discovery with the exhibit. What I'm going to show is that I filed the motion, right? All the things. I'm gonna state the case law, Brady, Brady versus the United States, right? And I'm gonna reference that, and then I'm gonna show where I sent off everything in a line statement that I filed a motion on this day, whatever it is, to the prosecutor's office, and then I'm going to show and state that I sent it off on that day, and then I'm gonna show what the envelope and the stamp where I sent it off by certified mail, or however, if I hand delivered it, I might show a picture of me in front of the prosecutor's office with a timestamp showing that I was in the prosecutor's office on that day, delivering them that motion. You see what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get the clerk's name that works at the prosecutor's office and put that in the affidavit, showing and following everything. Where I got the proof of claim. If I could go back, if they say they never get it, they never got it, I can show them how anyone paying bills. Man, here we go. Don't you, man, bye. Here you, Dave. Here you come. So I'm just showing you. This is why I went over this day. You all late popping up. This is why y'all talking about. He talking about anyone paying bills. This is where your tax exemption number come in at. Put your tax exemption number on your bills. They can't tax you. Everything the Federal Reserve notes. You got to understand all of this stuff is reserved through the tax. All of that stuff is a form of a tax. They're trying to tax you for everything. You put that in there, you don't supposed to be getting that. You put that in there. We'll talk about that at another time because I got to get up out of here. I've been on here for almost 2 hours, and I'm gonna show you how to win. I'm gonna show you how to go about utilizing this information and learning how to use this to great lengths. So just showing you how to do your motions, make sure they're numbered, each and every line, your affidavits with exhibits. If you're not doing that, your exhibits must have exhibit on there, whatever the name of the exhibit. If it's exhibit A, it could be exhibit B, exhibit C, or it could be exhibit A1, exhibit A2. Whatever how you got it numbered, it must correlate to the letter. Memorandum of law, affidavit in support of memorandum of law with exhibits, with your exhibits supporting. So all three must correlate and support each other, evidencing, verifying your proof of claim. This is your boy Keng el Bey. I hope this information was good to everybody. Do anybody got any questions before I get up out of here?
I just want to say I look forward to seeing you in May. I'm taking notes as I'm listening, and yeah, when we link up, I'm gonna have questions before then, but I'm gonna have questions then as well.
Okay, thank you, brother. I'm gonna just be dropping this science. I hope this makes sense. Show y'all how to move, and then we're gonna keep this popping. So I'm gonna do some more videos. Peace and love to everybody. I'm out of here. Till next time, it's your boy Keng el Bey.
Islam.
Islam.
That's a good note.